technical difficulties undifficulted, or at least changed. All right, well, welcome to Hosted Bar. Again, I'm Erin Ogden, and with me, as always, is Jeff Glazer. But today, we have Don Stanley. Yay! So, Don, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, and then what are you drinking?
So who am I? I'm a lot of different things, but the roles I play professionally is I teach digital marketing courses here at the UW-Madison, and I've been running a digital consultancy where we help companies and organizations and individuals figure out what they should be doing online and how to do it to grow their business and their brand. And then I'm double fisting today in honor of my Irish heritage. I've got orange and green. I've got my typical green smoothie, organic bananas, organic spinach, and a Orgain powder. And then this is like an immunity mix that I found at Costco, and it's really good. So I figured in honor of the Irish heritage, I don't know, it's not St. Patrick's.
You know what? Irish heritage is celebrated at all times.
Absolutely. Even if you're not Irish, everybody can celebrate.
That's right. So I am not nearly as healthy today. Today I have a pumpkin pietini that has a pumpkin liqueur, Bailey's Irish cream, and cinnamon and nutmeg on top, just to give it a little zhuzh, little fall feeling. And I gotta say, I'm liking it. How about you, Jeff?
You make do. I like it. Adapt and overcome.
So, Jeff, I just sent you a message. Are we supposed to be live? Are we doing it live? Okay. Because I just didn't see it on YouTube, and I wanted to make sure that, it was working. But oh, no, I just had to refresh. Never mind.
We all need to refresh every now.
That's right. That's what the weekend is for.
Exactly.
No, it's fine, Jeff. It came up now. I just needed to refresh. So, Don, I was really excited to have you on because I keep hearing about inbound marketing, and all this stuff, and I nod my head like I know what it means. Mm-hmm. And yet every time I'm always like, isn't all marketing inbound? Like all marketing is, I want things to come in to me. And when I think of inbound and outbound, I can think of airplanes, right? And I don't want anything to be going out to someone else if I'm putting time in my marketing. So what is inbound marketing if everything isn't inbound?
Good question. And inbound marketing, the way I think about it is interruption marketing versus marketing that you want to have in front of you. So the perfect example for me is the DVR. Why did people invent the DVR? To primarily skip commercials that they did not want to watch, right? Why do we have the skip feature on YouTube? And why does most people click on it? Because we want to skip things. Outbound means essentially you're interrupting people and you're sending out messages most of the time that are not solicited.
Sorry.
Sending out messages. I can hear myself.
I know, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Whereas inbound is what you want to do is you want to create content, primarily video, audio, text, that when somebody is looking for something, they do a search in your company or you as an individual, a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, your content shows up and somebody goes to your website, goes to your social media channels. They come into, without you having to solicit, they come into your sphere and they seek information that they want or are interested in. So basically, again, the way I try to explain it that makes more sense, because sometimes these marketing terms are like, that doesn't make sense to anybody but a marketer, is, am I interrupting somebody? If I am, that tends to be outbound. If I'm not, if I'm drawing them in like a magnet because they did a search and they're looking for something and then they find me, whether it's, a Google My Business page or a social media account or a website, that's what I see as inbound marketing.
Cool. So it's more kind of a, I don't want to say mindset, but more that the customer is coming to you and saying, I want to know more, rather than you going to the customer like, you should know more, you should know more, you should know more. Exactly.
And there's different levels of it, of course, because if you use Facebook marketing or Instagram marketing or other, you can really refine your audience to get in front of the right folks. So we're not talking about paid advertising right now. But it really is a mindset. It's a mindset of focusing on finding people and meeting them when they have a need, versus just broadcasting so widely that you're getting the wrong people paying attention to your message. And so, for example, right now I'm getting some ads served to me on YouTube. I have no idea why. And I spend a lot of time on YouTube. That's my primary source of listening to podcasts and learning things. And so I spend a lot of time on it. Right now I'm getting something about MVAs for PI attorneys. And I'm like, what? I'm not a personal injury attorney. And what is an MVA? And I keep getting served this ad. So of course I keep skipping it. And that's an example to me of bad marketing and like an outbound marketing, where I am not a personal injury attorney. I don't work with personal injury attorneys. Why are you messaging me with this information? Whereas I also got a different message recently, a different YouTube ad for a nonprofit that does some really cool things making sustainable clothing, that I did pay attention to theirs because they knew enough about me from the demographics to be able to say this guy might be interested in that. So again, there's levels of it that even though I wasn't soliciting that, but usually it's that I'm going to go on Google, I'm going to search, I'm having an issue, I'm having a challenge, I'm having a problem. How do I build a personal brand online? How do I find this? How do I train my dog? And what ends up happening is the good content shows up. The mindset is I want to be helpful. So I want to show up high in a Google search or an Alexa search or whatever tool we're thinking of. And I want to be able to have my website or my social media content show up so people get drawn into me and they're like, this company, this individual, they're really helpful. I want to learn more. And that way it is non-interruption based. It's helpful based.
So
yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say one of the trends, it seems, in recent inbound marketing is more brand neutral content marketing. I was reading an article written by an academic. Not that automatically invalidates it, just means it's particularly drier than other kinds of articles, I think. There's a lot more math. There are way more like summation and integral signs than I normally expect with like marketing research. But the gist of the article is that more and more brands are adopting what they call brand neutral content marketing, on this idea that if you can, they gave an example of Patagonia, right? Where Patagonia, they're writing articles that don't say buy a Patagonia jacket. They say being outdoors is awesome, right? And here are all the ways that I love being outdoors, so that when people are searching for things to do outdoors, that one of the places that they end up is, reading the articles, the inspirational articles, albeit reading these inspirational articles at Patagonia about being inspired to go outdoors. And then, is there supposedly, what's the idea there? That I'm going to provide this content that has nothing to do with my brand, but that people are going to somehow know it's associated with me and just sort of stick around and buy my stuff? There seems to me to be a high risk of a free ride. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of questions here, but
I think it's a great question, and I would say there's very little risk in that because of this. Red Bull was the company that really started this and championed it. And what they started doing was they started creating beautiful magazines, beautiful content about X Games type sports. And yes, there were the paid and sponsored athletes who were a part of it, but they never talked about Red Bull. All they talked about was highlighting these people and showing what they were doing and places that events were happening and how you could learn to do these tricks. And what people want is more than ever, and this is pre-COVID, but even more so with COVID, is right now, Western cultures, and I'm thinking specifically of the UK and the US with this data I'm about to address, are the loneliest we've ever been. And people want a sense of belonging. And what companies and organizations can do is they can create a sense of community. The example that I'll often give is people will start to feel like they're a part of an organization. So I'm a big Green Bay Packers fan. If you're not, I'm sorry you don't like pro football, but that's beside the point. But when the Packers win, my friends and I don't say, yeah, the Packers won this weekend. What we say is, we won this weekend. If we see somebody who has a Packers shirt on, we're like, hey, what's up? But we do the same thing with Spartan races, with jiu-jitsu t-shirts, with things that are Patagonia. It can be things that are Star Wars or Star Trek or Harry Potter. And what people want is that sense of connection and community. So what those businesses are doing is they're creating that gathering space for like-minded people to get together and to learn more about what their passions and interests are. Patagonia, I think, does a phenomenal job of it, because people who are interested in Patagonia aren't just interested in the outdoors, they're interested in doing good as well. And so they talk about ways to get involved and things to do, and they sponsor things that are meaningful to people who purchase from them.
So that's interesting. So inbound marketing is a little bit of could be a little bit of education, could be a little bit of what are people searching for, but it sounds like a lot of community building and who is my customer. Absolutely. And helping them recognize, oh, that's me. I'm your customer, and therefore I'm coming to you.
Absolutely. Go. I was just going to say, Mark Schaefer wrote a great book called Marketing Rebellion. Very, 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 very good book. And in it, he details out how there's been different rebellions since the start of the medieval marketplace, when the first marketing disruption took place with flyers and posters. Well, today, if you look at the data, what people want more than anything is a sense of belonging. And can companies do that? I ask, do people have Apple tattoos? Do people post Apple? Of course they do. So what can be done? And small local coffee shops can do that. Small local businesses can do that. It is not exclusive to those organizations. So really putting that mindset in as part of my inbound is pulling people into my community, not just selling a product, but I want people to feel like they're a part of something. So if they buy my locally made soap or pasture raised eggs or whatever it is, they feel like they're buying from somebody they know and are connected with. And you can do that at a distance as well. It doesn't have to be just geographically close. And that's part of inbound, is creating those spaces where it's like the old Cheers. I don't know how many people would remember Cheers, but when Norm walked in, it was all Norm. And we're all looking for that. And we all need that. And there are ways for businesses and organizations to do that. Again, where you create that sense of community and people feel a sense of belonging.
And it's not just community. I mean, I think one of the interesting, one of the interesting changes maybe in consumer behavior is that people do a lot more research today than they used to do when they go and buy a product. And maybe that's because product quality today is higher than it was in the late 80s, early 90s, which is maybe my touch point for this kind of stuff. Or maybe it's because information's just finally available to us, so we can actually do research about things. But people are spending more time doing sort of basic category research, not like, do I want this brand over that brand, but what makes a record player, what makes a record player good, right? And then I'm going to go read this article on what makes a high-end, what are the feature sets of a record player. And then I'm going to go shop on, okay, I've read this article. Now I'm going to go buy a record player that has the features that I think I want. So there's this search component. There's this informational component to looking for goods and services today that's maybe more of an emphasis than it ever has. And it seems that there's some opportunity for a manufacturer, for a service provider to provide some of that basic information so that when people are looking for that, to be able to provide it in a sort of neutral way makes it seem that your finger isn't on the scale as much. But
absolutely, I think that's a great example, and one of my favorite examples. It's a little bit dated in a sense, is Gary Vaynerchuk when he started out as a nobody. If you're not in the marketing arena, Gary Vaynerchuk is a huge name, and he started out by doing WineLibrary.tv. If you go back to the origins of WineLibrary.tv, it was a YouTube video show where here's this guy who's New Jersey, New York, through and through, and kind of rough around the edges and all this stuff. Good, really good guy from what I know. But he's talking about wine. And the first question that some people had was, well, how are you going to talk about wine? You run a liquor store. You have an agenda. And what they started doing is they would never review a wine that they had in stock. He would only talk about wines that they did not have in stock, or they would carry a very, very limited amount of that wine. And people would say, why would you do that? And he goes, because I don't want people thinking I'm pushing a product. What ended up happening, they started his dad's liquor store, which was selling all kinds of liquor in the New York City area, was at about $4 million a year in business, gross revenue. When they did this YouTube channel of WineLibrary.tv, where they taught people to taste wines and how to pair wines and how to do different things with wines, and again, not selling anything, they went from $4 million to $60 million in sales. They didn't change any other marketing. They didn't add any new marketing.
So it's funny that you say that, because I was just about to start asking questions about sort of a free rider problem, right? Which is that I'm going to go and provide all this great information about wine, but there's no guarantee that people are actually going to buy it from me, right? That I'm going to provide, here's all this great information about learning to make you a better wine consumer, and I could just be out those dollars if nobody actually, if there isn't an increase in the amount of sales that I see, right? Presumably we're doing this because we want people to continue to buy stuff from us.
Absolutely.
So it seems like, at least from that story, that you would be that you would hold the position that the benefit far outweighs the free rider detriment.
Yeah, because what I ask is, what does that build? What did he build by doing that? What's the asset that he gained by doing that in your mind as a consumer? So I'm asking both of you right now, and anybody who's listening, what did he build there? What did he gain?
Well, he built, I think he built community, he built knowledge, he built himself as an expert of the subject. He built whatever his personal brand is as being passionate about the subject matter. And I think when, I have a little bit of experience in this position, so I can say that I think that when people see you as an expert, or they see your passion for a subject, they're more likely to engage with you. They're more likely to want to be involved with what you're doing. So even though it can seem to be brand neutral, the brand isn't necessarily the thing that you're selling, but it's the person that you're being. It's the thing that you're doing.
Oh, go ahead, Erin.
I was gonna say, I think that, you're building the expertise, you're building the person, the relationship, and saying, oh, I can trust this person because they're talking about this in a way that I can understand, right? Like wine and law are both the same way, where people can quickly go into something that doesn't sound like normal English.
Absolutely.
Right? It really gets caught in a jargon. And so being able to say, like, oh my gosh, he's talking about wine and doesn't sound like a snob.
Absolutely. And that's the whole thing. You hit on the key word. We are in the trust economy, because all things being equal, the average person will search 12 searches before they make a purchase decision. Wow. A couple of years ago, it was 8 things they would search. And then a couple of years before that, it was 6. And a couple of years before that, it was 4. So the number of touch points we're looking for is going up. Why is that? One, we're looking for a deal, but two, we want to know, can we trust this company? Are they going to stand up for their product? Are they going to back it up? That's why I love Costco. You know, I can get anything from there and I take it back. One of my famous stories is I bought a pair of boots from Costco, $25 boots. I'm kind of cheap when it comes because I'm pretty hard on stuff. Pair of boots separated where the top of the shoe meets the sole.
Mm-hmm.
I went in there 2 years after the fact. And I said, oh, I've got these boots on. Do you guys still sell them? I'd really like to buy another pair. They're like, where did you buy these? So I bought them here. Don't go buy another pair. Just go grab another off the rack. I'm like, these have 2 years of hiking and beating on them. No, you bought them here. We're going to take care of you. Wow. I tell that story like mad. And so when companies do that and they engender that trust, the best marketing form is a satisfied customer. 66% of all marketing on social media is done by people talking about companies, not companies talking about themselves. So when you build that trust, what you're able to do is build that share of voice and build that confidence that, hey, this company or this coffee shop or this whatever it is stands for something I care about, and I'm willing to give it a try and spend my money there.
So that is a perfect lead into my next question, and that is, when I hear inbound marketing, it's always in like social media, how to use social media, or how to use your website and how to be online. But it sounds like inbound marketing is not just a computer, internet thing. It's much broader than that.
I think of it that way, yeah.
So are there we've talked a little bit about like build a community or things like that, but that can be really nebulous. Are there certain strategies or things people should be thinking about when they're trying to say, I want to implement this into my business?
Absolutely. So what people want is they want help and assistance in some way. We all suffer from the curse of knowledge, which means we assume everybody knows what we know, and therefore we're not willing to create pieces of content about it. So the example I gave is I recently worked with a executive vice president of a $4 billion company. And one of his first questions to me is, what is Facebook and does it work? This guy's an executive vice president of a $4 billion company. He is intelligent. He's smart. So the easy answer would be, are you stupid? How do you not know that? The right answer is, of course, he doesn't operate in my world. There's things that he knows that I have no idea what even questions to ask. So if I want to start thinking about things, again, I'm going to pick the coffee shop as an example. We can pick whatever it is. What can I teach people about coffee, about making stuff at home, about being able to know where their stuff is coming from? If it's a coffee shop that does fair trade, can I talk about some fair trade products? Can I start to talk about sustainability? Could I start to talk about some lifestyle stuff? Can I talk about how to make fun things at home with your kids, with drinks that we make at the cafe? I mean, whatever it is, you can give people this experience where they're learning and connecting with you, which is exactly what Gary did. It's what Patagonia does. It's what Red Bull does. There's other examples. Unconventional Acres is a place just outside of Madison that does a phenomenal job with their little farm on making people feel a part of it. So think about ways you can connect people to learn more about things, because people go into coffee shops, what? One, to get coffee. So I could teach them all about coffee, but two is partially to feel part of community. And if I start talking about things going on in the community, maybe they come in for bakery. I could start talking about little bakery things and talk about little tips and tricks of things that we have highlighting the people who are in our bakery, maybe highlighting some things you could do at home with your kids over the holidays to make some cool baking treats. All of those little things are content that when I'm coaching people, I have yet to run across an industry where we can't come up with ideas to start building and facilitating that community. Because yes, I could go somewhere else and learn about how to make these muffins, but how cool is it that I can learn from my folks at Grace Coffee right here in Sun Prairie, and I could go and I feel like when I walk in, hey, by the way, guys, I tried that recipe. It worked out great. Thanks so much. You're not going to get that with the same thing if I'm looking at a place in Seattle, Washington, or Los Angeles, for example. So that's one of the ways that we break it down and make it tactical, is to think about things, because you're not really selling coffee, you're selling an experience, right?
So Don, with that, I hear this a lot about, but that's hard, or I have to be perfect, or I need all of this equipment. And I think that this our YouTube series shows that Jeff and I clearly don't have that same approach. I'm willing
That's why I love you
know,
guys, because you're not waiting and thinking, you're doing, you're executing.
Is that okay? Is it like I always joke that I ready, fire, aim sometimes. Is that all right? Or are customers going to look askance if maybe your lighting isn't perfect or your script isn't right?
Nope. Especially because of COVID and Zooms and everything that's happened on Zooms. What people want is they want a human experience. If you focus as you're hitting record, not on yourself, especially if you're afraid to record anything. And I push hard, all of my clients and all of my university students hard on video. If you focus on, I just want to help somebody, what question would they have and how can I answer it? Nobody's going to say, that answer was super helpful, Erin and Jeff, thank you. But man, your lighting was off, so I'm not going to tell anybody about this. Yeah, you had some good stuff about some legal issues, but I'm not going to. Your microphone was a little bit staticky. Although audio you do want to have as good as you can. But your background wasn't just perfect, so that does not happen.
What, are you kidding me? Look at this.
Well, I was talking about Jeff.
Gorgeous.
I was talking about Jeff.
Yeah, I know.
But in all seriousness, I think when you focus on being helpful rather than perfect is when you realize we all can be of value to someone. One of the things that I always push really, really hard with my students, there's an article that I have them read called 1,000 True Fans by Kevin Kelly, who is the founding editor of Wired magazine. And the basic thesis is if you can get a true fan is somebody who, if you think of a band, if they drop a new record, you're going to buy it. If they got a new t-shirt, you're going to buy it. If they're playing within 5 hours of where you live, you're driving to go see them play. And if we can
Jeff recognizes this person.
Yeah, and if we can get 1,000 true fans out of the 8 billion people on the planet, 8 billion. So like 1,000 is like a teeny tiny portion of that. And you provide enough value. If those 1,000 people spend $100 a year on your products and services, you now have a gross revenue of $100,000.
Not too bad.
Yeah. So the idea is it doesn't take much. And if you can build that community where people walk in and have that norm experience, and you can do it in virtually every industry. I've worked in a lot of really weird industries where people are like, you were able to build community in that? And it's like, yeah, you can. That's when you start to realize I don't need to be perfect video for everybody. I just need to be helpful to those 1,000 people that are the people that I'm really trying to help.
So that's an interesting thing about inbound marketing is to kind of distill everything. And we'll talk more about this next week, Jeff, but it sounds like it's not just helping them recognize your tribe, but also recognizing you aren't the company for everyone. Your audience isn't the 8 billion. It's maybe not the 1,000 because you want to have people that are more than just true fans, but it's 5,000, not 8 billion.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly right. One of my mentors, a gentleman named Michael Port, who's phenomenally good at what he does. He calls it his red velvet rope policy, which is what happens when you see a bar with a red velvet rope in front of it, a couple of big people standing up and being
I wanted to know what's behind the rope.
Exactly right. It's exactly right. And when you make people earn that,
look at them and say pretentious twat.
The best way to do this from a tactical standpoint is to have a section on your website and your social media channels that says, we're not the right fit for you if, and then list those things out. If you're looking for super fast results without being personable, without really caring about your audience, I'm the wrong fit for you. If you're looking to put profit above everything else and don't care about any other value, you're not a bad person. You're just different than me. If you don't want to, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be that heavy. It can be, if you're a cat person and you're a dog person, or begrudgingly, if you're a Bears fan, that hurts to say. But
whoa.
There's some people.
I was fine on the cat person thing, but you're going to besmirch Bears fans now? I mean, come on.
I didn't say I could be the bad news Bears, right? I didn't say which Bears. You're making assumptions there.
That's right,
so if you're the kind of person who makes assumptions, I can't work.
He didn't say
that's
Sox
a typical
fan,
Packers
Jeff.
fan putting it on me.
But in all seriousness, having that we're not the right fit for you if, and having that listed out is so valuable, because what ends up happening, and I've got case study after case study, and I could go on for hours on case studies of people saying, I know you're not the right fit for me, but because you were honest, I want to work with you.
Yeah.
Interesting. Nice. So we don't have hours. We have like 5 minutes left.
Mhm.
So in that last 5 minutes, so one thing that we like to ask is there a tool, and you've already mentioned a couple of books or things that you find are really interesting or helpful, or is there something that's just been like in the news lately that may be related to this, may not be, that has been stuck in your head?
The thing that has been stuck in my head, wow, I could go off on a lot of tangents with everything that's been going on in the world. But I think the biggest thing to pay attention to is there's that sense of belonging and that sense of connection, and that companies, whether it's Patagonia or a local coffee shop, whatever, can do that. And just by thinking of, hey, how can I be a ray of light in somebody's life with all the crap going on in the world? People will often say, why do you post stuff about dogs on your social media accounts? And I'll say, because sometimes people just need to smile. There's no, I want them to be like, I feel good. I get a shot of dopamine if I see his stuff. And I'm not doing it to earn business. I'm not doing it for anything other than life's hard right now. I mean, life's hard, period. But so post something that's funny and lighthearted, something that's beautiful, like a picture of the outdoors. I spent a lot of time outdoors, and just kind of share the experience with others and let them know. And you can do that with your business too, because people love behind the scenes content. They want to know, what is it like, and sharing some, making people, bringing them inside that red velvet rope, or letting them behind the counter of your business, or, so to speak, where you're doing things. That is a great way to nurture connections and nurture relationships. The other thing that I would say is look for things that you can do that do some type of social good in your community, no matter how small. Donating stuff for kids for Christmas, for school, providing some meals, whatever it is, that those little acts go a long way as well, because people want and need more of that more than ever.
So that's fits in really well with one of the things that's been stuck in my head lately. But first, I wanted to go with the whole like show what you are, because I always say that for like our firm, I'm like, if you're looking for the mahogany desk, the full suit, and Ms. Ogden kind of thing, you are looking at the wrong attorney. Like you have to be ready to be called
Attorney
dude
Ogden.
and maybe have an F-bomb thrown in occasionally.
Yep.
And if you are not okay with that, then I can refer you to an attorney that has the fancy shiny desk.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that I just discovered this earlier this year, and then it's come up a couple of times again this week, and it's something I hadn't realized, that although like Joe Biden has been in political life for 45 years,
Mm-hmm.
I never realized he was a stutterer.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually very involved in being on national stage and all of that. But it slipped my mind and or slipped my attention. And reading some articles about him overcoming and working with the stutter, and kind of all of those things that you don't know what people have overcome to get where they are, or what they're doing now. So like now, when you see somebody who's struggling with a speech or something like that, instead of thinking, oh my God, they're stupid, it could be that they have overcome and admit like a really bad stutter, or just kind of all those things that you never know what someone's bringing along in their backpack.
Yeah.
And
And that's one of the things. Well, and this is always a personal thing. Whenever I'm coaching clients, I'm actually working with a couple on this right now, is how much of that story do you share? And that's one of their concerns and questions. And what I say to them, and it's always up to them to make the decision, but when you show you are human, you make yourself more approachable. When people know that you have struggled as well, this is the Oprah effect. What did Oprah do to build those rabidly loyal fans? What did Brene Brown do to build? Exactly. Little matchbox cars, right? But same thing with Brene Brown. What did she do? She went on stage and opened up, and it was hard and it was scary. David Goggins, who's another favorite guy, there's so many examples that what it does is it makes you human. You take off that veneer of, oh, I'm gonna struggle working with that person because and people don't always consciously do this. They sometimes do it subconsciously. Because I had a client recently say, "Man, it seems like you have your stuff together so well." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Bro, what? Wait a second. I'm human." And we started talking, and he goes, "Well, I was a little intimidated to bring up a few things with you that I want to work on in my business because I thought you might look at me like, how does he not know that stuff?" And so I, had obviously done a poor job in that example of saying, no, we're in this together, linking arms. I'm just a little bit ahead of you. And so I'm going to help you and guide you. And that's an approach I think that people really appreciate as a part of the messaging. So I didn't know that about Joe Biden either, but it does change your perspective when you hear some people's stories and you realize some of the challenges and struggles that we all deal with. And that's where, again, as a business, you can say, we just care about veterans issues. So therefore we donate to veterans. And, it's because we come from a family where veterans were supported, or we donate to the local animal shelter or whatever it is. Those types of things too connect and humanize, because it's like, oh, I care about dogs too. Oh, I care about veterans too, or senior citizens, or whatever it is. Or I have a family member who struggles with that. One of the cafes that I work with started having gluten-friendly options. And they're like, why do you have gluten-friendly options? Well, one of the kids has celiac disease. One of their kids does.
That's the story of Alt Brew here in Madison.
Absolutely. And what does that do then to somebody knows somebody who has celiac, or a family member has celiac? Oh, I'm going to tell them about Alt Brew now because Erin mentioned it. So if they want to go out, now I've got, again, it's a community.
Well, can you believe it? It's been 30 minutes already. Don, thank you so much for helping me answer my question of just WTF is inbound marketing, because I'm not afraid to ask what could be a stupid question.
There's no such thing as
so much for coming. We truly, truly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And we'll make sure to get your information in the show notes, so that way if people have further questions, I'm
Yep.
All right.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you all.
All right. See ya.
Bye.